Hello, everybody. This is the work session for the Board of Mayor and Aldermen for August the 13th, 2019. Let me give you a reminder. I see some faces maybe that I don't normally see, and I anticipate that some of you might want to speak on a particular item on the agenda tonight or not on the agenda. So our tradition is that you filled out a speaker's card. If I don't have your speaker card, we will not recognize you. So we're going to start out tonight with a citizen comment from Judy Herbert. And Judy, I'll give you a couple of minutes. Come on up and sit down with us. Commissioner Herbert. You can sit down with us.
Just press the button.
I haven't spoke before, y'all, and the reason I'm coming, I don't live in the city, even though I own property, is because
She did. She did.
it's because I'm the second district commissioner, and I represent Lewisburg Pike, which is one of the subdivisions we're talking about. And I do have some questions to get a little more educated in. I know, am I correct that it's not in that urban growth boundary, right?
It's in the urban growth boundary.
It is?
Yeah.
I
Yes.
thought- Okay. And have
Are
y'all,
you talking about Southbrook, or are you talking about the 26 properties that have requested a referendum to annex into the city of Franklin?
I'm talking the Southbrook, the
Okay.
big
Yeah,
subdivision.
Southbrook is in.
But the
in growth
others
boundary.
haven't, right? Are you talking about the other ones
There's two
haven't?
different issues. I just want to make sure we're clear. Southbrook is in the urban growth boundary.
Okay. Has it been taken into the city yet? Has that
That's
been
what's being
approved?
voted on right now is the annexation, development plan, zoning, plan of service, all those elements are on for second reading tonight.
Okay.
At the 7 o'clock meeting.
I just want to make a few comments then, and this is county coming, I'm longtime Williamson County, as I know there's several on here that's lived here their whole life too, so we've seen a lot of changes, some good, not so good. My question is, how many houses do you allow per acre? Is there a set one, the city, like on this subdivision? Like the county has one house per acre, do y'all just make it according to subdivision?
There are varying densities,
Yes.
is what you're
Yeah.
asking, so
Right.
there's not a set number of homes per acre on a particular project. There is a varying density that is allowed based
Okay.
upon either the zoning or a PUD.
Okay, I guess I'm just kind of asking, and this is an issue that we have in the county too.
If I could just stop you just one second.
okay.
Why don't I get Emily Hunter, our Director of Planning and Sustainability, to come up? Thank you. And
Good evening. So I think I only heard the first question thus far, but in relation to do we have a set density? When an area is being annexed, it also receives its zoning at the same time. So it's up to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen to choose the zoning during the annexation process. In Envision Franklin, we don't get into specific densities. We do recommend various lot sizes, and Southbrook in particular is in the conservation subdivision design concept, which requires 50% open space preservation. That is being accommodated with the plan. However, the lot sizes are below the minimum recommended in Envision Franklin, which does mean there is a slightly higher density than would normally be supported by Envision Franklin. But there is not a set density until the zoning is put in place through the process tonight after public hearing.
I'm going to continue to recognize
I would just add to that,
Commissioner.
though, about they're not all outside that. It's only 200 of them.
No, not all of the lots are, but some of them.
continue on, Commissioner.
Okay, I guess, and these are more just remarks, and I feel this way as far as the county and the city, is these conservation subdivisions, what they do, they cram as many houses as they can on the good acres, and the acres they couldn't build on anyway, they're considered the green space. I would love to see the county and the city not count all those unbuildable acres as acres in the subdivision where they couldn't build as many houses. I mean, when you've got nothing but a hilltop Of course you can't build on that. And then that's their conservation. Well, that still got all those houses crammed in. It's still gonna create all these traffic problems. You know, and it's already a lot of traffic on Lewisburg Pike. And another red light there is gonna make it even worse. I guess my thing is, I'm just seeing this county that I think is so wonderful that I grew up in, slowly being destroyed by so much building. I mean, we're losing what made this county so special. And I hope that y'all will, I know you're gonna probably allow it to be in the city, but I hope you'll allow not as many houses to be built. Thank y'all.
And Commissioner, certainly Emily and any of her staff are available to sit down and talk with you and discuss this in a lot more detail and-
Okay.
and help you better understand it, so we would offer that. So we appreciate your being here.
And I don't know if this was really the place I should have spoke or not.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
We're always glad to see you.
Thank y'all.
Thank you.
Okay, we're ready to head into the South Corridor study, and we have WSP coming up to the desk, and we have Michael Skipper and Michelle Lacewell, who are from the Greater Nashville Regional Council, one of the partners that are developing this study, which is a very important study to us. So if it's okay, I'll just turn it over to Michael, and then you can introduce the rest of our guests.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Mayor, Alderman. Good to see you, Eric. It's a pleasure to be here. My name is Michael Skipper. I'm the Executive Director of the Greater Nashville Regional Council, which is an association of city and county governments that represents the collective work of those local jurisdictions across 13 counties in Middle Tennessee. Together, city and counties are working every day on matters related to social services, infrastructure like transportation and solid waste, and economic and community development. There's a host of state and federal grants out there that could be used by to invest in our region, and our job is to help coordinate the decisions for which money we go after in support of our local governments. As part of our mandate as a regional council of governments that is governed by the city and county mayors across Middle Tennessee, and so the City of Franklin Mayor Moore is actually our immediate past president of the council, but part of our mandate is to help coordinate decisions related to how the federal gas tax dollars that go up to DC that get redistributed back to the states and regions across America, how that money is going to be invested in Middle Tennessee. We essentially ratify those decisions through the adoption of a regional transportation plan that is adopted by our mayors every 5 years that allocates, last time we did it, about $8 billion of anticipated revenue into regional infrastructure for transportation improvements. We are currently underway with a study of what the future should look like along this region South Corridor, connecting Nashville with Brentwood, Franklin, Spring Hill, and communities on into Murray County. The study is really focused on supporting a conversation with local communities along the way and bridging the gap between local governments and the state Department of Transportation, TDOT, for how we should be investing our limited gas tax dollars into improvements to regional mobility. So with us here tonight is Doug Delaney and Mary Hartz, who are leading our consultant team to engage the public in ideas about the future of transportation investments along the corridor. And they're going to present to you an update on our efforts, including a recap of what we learned through the first round of public meetings that we held about a month and a half ago. So I'll turn it over to Doug.
Great. Well, thank you, Michael, and we very much appreciate the opportunity to be here this evening. We're going to talk a little bit about the study, the timeline that we're working with, and the partners involved. Emory is handing out a study kit that contains a lot of background information and information, some fact sheets and some other information about the project as well. We will also touch on the transportation and land use challenges and opportunities throughout the corridor, and then end with an overview of how folks can continue to be involved as we move forward with the study. We do have some upcoming meetings towards the end of this month. So in terms of the cities and agencies, as Michael described, the Greater Nashville Regional Council, along with WEGO and TDOT, are leading the effort but we are really trying to partner with the communities along the corridor as much as possible to get your input and to make sure that whatever recommendations come out of the study are fully supported and are really the basis of those recommendations come from the communities along the corridor. In addition to that, the cities along the corridor have contributed financially toward the study, and so as Michelle likes to say, you do have a stake in the study and the outcome of the study. So we very much appreciate your involvement. In terms of a vision for the study effort and the corridor as a whole, we outlined during our first round of meetings back in April and early May, identified for the public this idea of a safe and reliable rapid transit connection between Nashville and the communities in the South Corridor, so stretching into Williamson and Murray counties. And we think that resonated fairly well. And one of the things that I'll talk about is our desire not to just focus on the transit component of the transportation needs in this corridor, but how that transit component interacts and can work with other transportation improvements as well as emerging technologies to achieve that vision. So this is a fairly long corridor. It's about 35 miles in length, and it stretches from downtown Nashville down to Columbia through Williamson County, and again, connecting all the communities along that corridor. As part of our efforts, we're looking at 3 primary transportation corridors, I-65, US 31, and then also the CSX Railway. So we really see those 3 primary corridors as the main opportunity for improved transit and transportation within this larger area. And that comes out of the MPO's Middle Tennessee Connected, as well as WEGO's In Motion efforts in the past. And so we want to bring all that information, but again, tailor something that works for the communities and works for the citizens in this corridor. As far as the outcomes, we ultimately are looking for a recommendation or recommendations in the short, medium, and long term. We want those recommendations to fit into the MPO's future plan, as well as the plans for the communities along the corridor, as well as the transit providers along the corridor, so that they can start to identify capital improvements and needs that can be implemented over time. Ultimately, we'll have a locally preferred alternative that comes out of this, but in addition to that, we're also looking at opportunities to connect these transportation improvements with land use and development and future development and transit station and stop location throughout the corridor. So as we move forward and as we have additional conversations with the community, we want to understand where those transit stations or stops make the most sense, why people feel that's the best location, and then what they would like to see at those transit stop and station locations and what that development might look like. So in terms of the transit component, we're looking at a wide variety of options that we think potentially could fit within the corridor, and we're doing an analysis to see which ones provide the best benefit to the corridor and the communities in the corridor. But we're looking at everything from conventional bus to commuter bus that we already have in existence within the corridor, into bus rapid transit, light rail, commuter rail, and then other potential options such as maglev or monorail. And then, as I said, beyond just focusing on transit, we're also looking at roadway and other infrastructure improvements that TDOT or the communities along the corridor have outlined or planned. We're looking at the potential of emerging technologies, of rideshare, of carpool, of a variety of things that are starting to come down the road, so to speak, that would fit and could potentially be implemented as a full comprehensive way of addressing transit and transportation within the corridor. So we've done quite a bit of analysis. We kicked off with a initial round of public meetings back at the end of April and early May. We have a second round of meetings coming up at the end of this month in just a couple weeks. And then the intent is to come back sometime around early November with some final recommendations and then wrap the entire study up by the end of the calendar year. So we're very much in the mode of looking for input and feedback from different stakeholders and the community throughout the corridor. To date, as an example of the feedback we've received, no surprise probably, but a majority of the folks traveling in the corridor today travel by car. About half of the commuters travel multiple times each day in the corridor, so either on I-65 or US 31. A good percentage are going from home to work, but there's also a fair amount of folks that are going to other destinations. This corridor has a lot of destinations, shopping, entertainment, work, a variety of things, recreation. So there is a significant amount of people that are traveling the corridor for those other opportunities as well. Again, no surprise, people experience most of their delays in the morning or evening commute peaks. And a lot of those delays are experienced closer in around I-40 as you get closer to downtown and around Old Hickory Boulevard in the Brentwood area. One of the things that we ask folks or have been asking folks is how many people utilize transit either for a daily basis or when you travel to another community. And about 19% of the people that we've surveyed indicate that they use transit either here in Middle Tennessee or when they travel somewhere. So we feel like there's a good percentage of people, if transit were more available, if it were faster, if it met their needs, and that people would use it. So that's what we're working towards, is identifying what options would work best for this corridor. So far, folks have mentioned light rail, bus rapid transit, and commuter rail is kind of their favored transit solutions. So that kind of gives you a quick overview of where we're at and where we've been and where we're headed. One of the reasons, or up on the screen, are the primary reasons that we're looking at this corridor. Obviously, Middle Tennessee as a whole and Nashville and Williamson County and Maury County are growing at an exponential rate. I don't need to tell you all this. That leads to an increase in roadway volume, the number of jobs increased, and all of us that are spending time stuck in traffic or on the road today are going to experience that even more in the future as that growth and development continues. So again, we're looking at ways to address that with transit, with roadway improvements, and with emerging technology. And as I mentioned, there are a lot of employment and activity centers located along this corridor. And so the reality is this corridor itself is a destination. And that causes additional traffic to be on the roadways and more congestion as people are trying to get to those various destinations in those activity centers. And what the information shows is that just as many people that are going into Davidson County are coming from Davidson County into Williamson County. And there's a fair percentage of people that are coming into Williamson County from Maury County for jobs or shopping or what have you. And so somewhat unique to this corridor is the fact that we're not just dealing with people trying to get into downtown to work or to other events and that sort of thing, but there's this constant stream of travel up and down the corridor and within Williamson County along these two primary corridors. So as we're looking at potential solutions, we're going to work and come up with ideas for the community that hopefully will address that traffic pattern and those patterns that folks have. In the vein of roadway and intersection improvements, TDOT earlier this year wrapped up their I-65 multimodal corridor study. And so we're utilizing a lot of the recommendations that came out of that effort and working those into our recommendations, or will ultimately be working those into our recommendations. And then how you connect those improvements with transit improvements and with those emerging technologies is ultimately where we're headed with our recommendations. Like I said, we've not only been working with the communities along the corridor, but also the existing transit providers. WeGo has their system, which runs within Davidson County, but also commuter opportunities that are within this corridor. Franklin Transit obviously has their operations, as well as their VanStar van pool efforts. And then the Muletown Trolley in Columbia has seen an uptick in their ridership as well. So we're working very closely with those organizations to make sure we understand what their existing and future needs are and how we can connect those with some sort of transit connection along this entire corridor. So as we move forward with the study, we again are looking for input and opportunities for the community to provide us with feedback. We have meetings, like I said, coming up later in August in Nashville, in Brentwood. The meeting here in Franklin is on Wednesday, August 28th at the Brookdale Senior Living Center. And then we have a meeting in Columbia as well. In addition to that, we have a website. It's southcorridor.org, where there's a tremendous amount of information. And as we continue to do our analysis, we'll add more information to that website. But it's a good place for people to start and to get more information. There's also some interactive tools on the website that people can utilize to learn a little bit more about what other cities are doing in terms of transit and what's been successful there. We also have a number of social media platforms, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, and we would encourage you all and others to sign up for one of those social media platforms, again, to stay informed and stay up to date on where we're at with the study. So again, we very much appreciate the opportunity to be here this evening to give you a brief update, and hope that you'll be able to join us at our upcoming meetings, and we'll continue to stay involved in the study effort as we move forward. The meetings are from 5:30 to 7:30 each evening that was listed on that slide. I'll back up for you. 5:30 to 7:30. Correct.
At Brookdale Senior Living on 96.
The time's not on there, but it's from 5:30 to 7:30.
Well, I guess my question would be, this next round of meetings, are we going to get some meat on the bone, or are we going to continue to see a lack of significant data? You know, I mean, I've been talking about the Southern Corridor study for a long time, and I'm very frustrated that we're not much further along with it. You mentioned the InMotion study. The InMotion study pretty much ignored this particular corridor. And this particular corridor is probably the most unique corridor that goes into Davidson County and comes out of Davidson County. No other county has that equal in and out, which is a perfect transit opportunity. We're looking for something unique that we can engage our citizens with in this corridor. And I'd encourage you to hurry up and bring that along. It's pretty frustrating. You know, I've attended every single meeting, and I'm ready for some meat on the bone, some more information, some more data. You mentioned that the roadway volume is going to increase 86% by 2040. I've heard it a different way. We'll be in gridlock by 2040 if we don't do something. So I think that's probably a more important point to be making. Another day, whenever I was at the Frank Talks, I mentioned to you that you should ride the Franklin Transit Authority and engage those people that are riding. Our ridership continues to increase on the Franklin Transit Authority. That's good. 60% of them are going to work. So, you know, how can we connect that system to another system most efficiently? But I'm eager for us to start getting some additional data, some additional information, and things that we can excite our citizens with. You you know, you've had good responses in Franklin, and this is an engaged citizenship that wants to be engaged in this process. So let's give them something to really get engaged on, you know, rather than continuing, you know, what I consider we need more data and more meat.
Absolutely, and I think people will be happy if they're able to come out to the public meetings in a couple weeks, where we will have a lot more data, we'll have a lot more information, and we'll have some initial recommendations that we're really, again, looking for folks to provide input and comment and give us feedback on. So I think we will show a lot of progress as we move forward.
Will we get that in the steering committee meeting on Friday?
Yes.
Alderman Martin, excuse me.
Thank you. It seems that every time this comes up, we're told that if you get the traffic from Columbia to Nashville and all along the way, that once they get to Nashville, you got to have some means to get them to their destination. That seems to be a blockage. Is there anything going on about that?
Well, it is something that we will look at, and I think it'll be part of the recommendations is how to get people throughout the entire corridor. So whether you're taking a trip from Murray County to Williamson, or you're taking a trip from Murray all the way into downtown, we will have ultimately recommendations on what that potentially would look like and how people might be able to use that. So it is something that we will be looking at as part of this study. As I often say in presentations, there is no one silver bullet that's going to work for everybody, and that's why we're trying to look at not only the transit improvements, but also the other roadway improvements and these emerging technologies and rideshare and other things to work as a whole system to increase mobility and help people move around this corridor.
Alderman Berger.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Alderman Martin's point, that's a common issue to any corridor, to get the people to the last mile or the last footsteps. But also, I would say that I don't think it's imperative that they're dropped at their doors either. If you ride transit in DC, ride transit in New York, you ride transit in other smaller places, they drop you and you walk a block or two and sometimes three. If our people don't want to do that, that's one thing, but I think that comes with the availability of transit and the availability of actually getting to your destination. The other thing I brought up the other day at the meeting was the utilization of our HOV lanes and how the emerging technology can allow us to use those better. And if you look at different cities, I would like for us to really bring forth at your meetings how HOV lanes could be better utilized and better managed lanes, or how managed lanes work for us or could work for us. And the emerging technology is out there to actually use that lane for high occupancy riders and bus rapid transit at the same time. And it may require putting up, the technology that tells people to move out of the lane as the bus rapid transit comes by, then you get to move back in the lane and utilize that lane. Sometimes it makes no sense to have that lane just open for bus rapid transit and no one else gets to use it. So the technology is there, and I know other cities are using it. I know Arlington, Virginia, back in the 70s, when I lived in DC and Arlington, we had, and then you shut down some of the roads and you have, what do you call that, when you have the, more lanes open going in and more lanes coming out, and you change lanes, but they had the boxes with the red X's, and then you knew to move out of your lane, you knew to move back in the lane, and that was in the 70s. If they had that technology then, what do we have today to better utilize and work with the federal government to allow us to use our HOV lanes better? Sometimes I know we have stipulations on those HOV lanes. Well, if that's the case, we need to go to DC, we need to go to our legislators in DC and say this needs to be changed because it's stifling our ability to move our people. So those are the things I would just share with you.
The good news on your latter point is that TDOT is beginning to implement some of the early stages of the active lane management that you're
Yeah,
referring to.
active
It
lane
just,
management.
unfortunately, it hasn't traditionally been part of their portfolio for a variety of reasons. As a region, it's been part of our policy statement to encourage those types of solutions. And in recent years, TDOT's made really good progress to start introducing these new concepts to not only the residents and the travelers across the region, but the sort of the legislative body at the state level that ultimately needs to help enable some of these new solutions to move forward. So right now, I-24 is their focus between Nashville and Murfreesboro, but we've talked with them about ensuring that whatever our recommendations are for transit, that the sort of the baseline recommendation includes that technology component for managing lanes
to be.
efficiently. No matter what transit solution we're looking at, I think that should be on the table.
Yeah, I think that has to be paramount. Thank you. Thanks.
Okay. Sure.
Do a clarification on the number of people in and out. When you're saying that it's an even swap, that they're coming in to Williamson County to work, they're going out. Because those numbers that I've heard, there's more coming in to Williamson County to work than there are actually going out of Williamson County to work. So is it basically an even swap? Take Franklin, for instance. Is it an even swap going?
I think we'd have to go back and look to make. I think we'd have to go back and give you to tell you if it's an even swap or not. But it was over 30,000 individuals, between 30 and 35,000 individuals going each direction.
Okay.
So it might have been 31 one direction, 33 the other.
No,
but-
that's close enough.
Roughly
Right.
No,
Yeah,
the
round
number that I heard
numbers.
was 30 coming in, but less than that going out. So if it was. Number two, and this is really kind of just a long shot. Years ago, people were coming in to work in Franklin from Lawrenceburg, from Lewisburg, from Pulaski, Giles County. That's and I don't want to say, because CPS, where I worked for many years, that's where we were getting Murray County, Lawrenceburg, Giles County, Lewisburg. When you look at this right here, this is fine. I mean, you got to start 35 miles, but somewhere along the way, it's got to be, it's even more than 35 miles, so.
Well, and one of the points you're making is the reason why we exist at a regional scale is to make sure that these individual corridors and projects that we might invest in a seemingly piecemealed fashion ultimately come together, provide a network that works for
Okay.
many people to be able to navigate to where they need to be. Even though we have a practice of sort of implementing one project at a time, it's got to be an intentional quilt work of transportation options for it to work for folks. And so I get that point and
Right.
respect it a great deal.
Henry, Doug, Michelle? Michael, thank you. Everybody,
Yeah, well, you answered my question, you made my comment. Let's get some action.
thanks for being here. Stay dry, be careful. Next, we're going to talk about the presentation of Parkview Drainage Study.
So as Paul and company come up here, and Jonathan, when we had our capital investment work session last month, one of the specifics we'd had some inquiries about and citizens speak about was concerns on the Evans Street Parkview area. And one of the things we said at that meeting that we would like to bring back to you at this meeting was just sort of an overview of the studies that have been conducted. And there have been multiple studies over many years of that area, and wanted to make sure you understood or saw kind of what we have gathered over time about how that area functions and what our options look like at this stage. As you all know, we've identified a component of that solution in our capital investment program that's on the agenda at the 7 o'clock meeting. A little over $11 million identified in a project component that we will tell you, I think, as we go through this, is not the full answer, but it's a part of that answer. So, but we did want you to have the benefit of the information and research that has gone on previously about this area and how it functions. So Paul, take it away.
Okay, well, we'll just run through some of the history of this. And actually, when I first started working here in 2009, the first call or complaint I got happened to be this area, so I became pretty familiar with it right off the bat. But it's been studied in 1982, 95, and then in 2015 recently. And generally speaking, every study comes back to be the exact same. The area lacks infrastructure, and it takes large storm infrastructure getting pushed up into this area to fix it. And that's generally what every recommendation has come back. And so just kind of highlight the existing problem, and Jonathan's,
It's coming up.
sorry, it should be number 2 in the folder. So we go to the third slide. So the third slide basically just shows generally the area where we're experiencing problem, and what you see there is the blue line is really where the ditch is, and then the blue area is where we see a lot of the localized flooding. And it's right at that point where it enters our existing storm system, which honestly appears to be a very piecemealed system over time, a little bit here, a little bit there, all different pipe sizes, some elliptical, some round. It goes from small pipe to big pipe, back down to small pipe. And it's all very, very shallow infrastructure. We looked at, as an option, is there availability with the land there to do some level of storage? The answer is no, there's not land there to do storage. And what we're seeing is even as little as a 1-year type storm event, this area will flood and have flooding issues. And that's not a surprise given the number of phone calls that we received from these residents in this area. So looking at what are the solutions to fix this area, this is the first option, and this is a component of that CIP, as Eric stated, was to install a very large storm pipe down Church Street. Where this opportunity's really come forward is our water and sewer department needs to replace a lot of the water and sewer infrastructure there, which gets into, well, if they're tearing up a lot of the street, should we go ahead and just tackle it as a roadway project and upgrade some of the sidewalks? And in some areas out there, you'll see where the roadway is actually at a higher elevation than the sidewalk because of multiple millings and overlays that have happened in that area. And so to do a project of this nature all the way up into the Parkview area would be around $17 million. If you just wanted to tackle water and sewer and leave the street absolutely alone, it'd be around $2 million. But right now the section in the CIP is really just tackling the first part of that is Church Street. So as we do that project, now would be the time to do that. In addition to our infrastructure, we know that Atmos Gas also wants to upgrade a lot of their infrastructure in Church Street. So it presents this opportunity to try to put in the necessary storm infrastructure with that project. The next option that has been evaluated and looked at over time is taking it where it goes today, which is over towards Sharps Branch. Very intrusive. There's a lot of development in that area. It would probably be less expensive, but we're not sure it's even feasible given the proximity to some of the structures, the buildings, the proposed development there. It would be a very difficult project to do, but it is where it goes today, and would take a lot more analysis to see if that's even feasible. But again, with Church Street moving forward, we kind of went back to Church Street. Just seemed to make sense to go that route. But this is an option that was studied. The estimated cost is less, but it would also, you're still having to go into Church Street and spend that $11 million to upgrade Church with water, sewer, gas, and fixing sidewalks as well. The last option that has come up during this is what I would consider to be more of a temporary fix, would be to look at trying to put some type of pump station. And this was explored during these studies as an opportunity to put a pump station with a large wet well. What makes me nervous about this is pump stations fail on occasions. They require lots and lots of maintenance. It would still cost a significant amount of money. We estimated around $5 million to even put in a pump station. We'd have to study it to see if it's feasible. You'd have to still have off-site easements, but it is an option that could be considered to provide a shorter-term benefit. And so those are really the three options that have come up in all these studies. We could study it again, but I promise you these are the three options that will result out of that study. And so unfortunately, there's not a quick fix. There's nothing the street department can do and go out there and provide relief other than what they continuously do is go out there and make sure the ditches are clean and the storm pipes have no blockages, and hope to improve things the best we can. But that provides a high-level summary of what solutions are out there, and happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Alderman Martin.
We've just about beaten this dog to death, but let's talk a minute about Church Street. The first thing I hear from residents when I mention Church Street is, you've just done that. You've just paved that. Now you're gonna come in and tear it up. Now, address that, would you?
So Church Street was in really bad condition, and so our street department made the decision, and it was a wise decision, to put a very fine micro seal type surface on it, just to keep the roadway from crumbling and falling to pieces, to the point where they would have to go out there and replace binder and really do full depth type replacement to that roadway. And so it was a patch to get us by. To develop a project like Church Street, it's not a secret. It would take us 4 to 5 years to develop a project of that nature, to acquire right-of-way, to work with that many stakeholders, to make sure that we get the design plans right and get out the bid. And it would take another year to 2 years to actually build a project of that nature. And so we made the decision internally as a CIP team that we really needed to just get out there and put down a surface mix and keep that road in good condition.
So the lifespan of that improvement sort of matches the time frame that Paul just described in terms of
understand that. I just,
study and bidding and all of that.
residents don't always understand it. How long, all right, if you start at Second Avenue, that's where you'd begin, to go up Church Street, and then where would you go? Evans?
We would probably get it over to Evans, and then that project would end, and it would take another project funded by the board at a time in which the board wants to move forward to extend another line down Evans Street, a separate project. But yes, we would try to get it to Evans, which would be an improvement, but there would need to be a second phase of that project to benefit that Parkview drainage area.
Other
So,
comments or
so you're
questions?
probably ultimately looking, when you put those together, somewhere around $20 million
Yes.
to do everything that needs to be done from an infrastructure. Yeah, yeah, when you blend those two components together.
Oh, more than that,
Oh,
more
well,
than 5.
It'd be 5 years to do the first phase.
First
Another
phase.
5
So,
to do the
yeah,
next
it's
phase.
it's not a quick fix.
I got Alderman Peterson, then Alderman Blount.
I did not have a chance to look at the option 3. Where would you be talking about putting the force main, and is that going directly into the river?
Yeah, we would have to take it directly to the river.
No, but I mean, where is that? You know, I didn't have a chance to go look at it.
It'd run down Folk Street more likely, then under Lewisburg, and then it would have to go between two properties, underneath the CSX to the river.
Kind of around the end of Evans, where Evans Street sort of ends there, and then would go directly, east towards the river.
I'm just wondering what properties.
Yeah, I don't know that we would have an exact alignment figured out. We would have to evaluate that and look at, if we can avoid a driveway, we're gonna try to avoid a driveway. So that'd be something we would study if the board wanted to pursue that option and look at it. But again, I would look at that as being a temporary fix, long-term, trying to, when timing made sense, get the infrastructure in the ground.
But that could be a faster possible,
It'd be faster, but faster would be 4 to 5 years still.
sure, okay. Well, that was my other question. Thank you.
Because you're still dealing, when you run that force main in the roadway, you're still dealing with lots of different utilities and trying to make sure that, and property owners, to acquire easements.
Alderman Blount. Then I'll get you, Alderman Barnhill.
I appreciate this information, and it's gonna sound backwards, but showing that there was studies in 82 and 95 and 2015 is great, but why wasn't it on our CIP as a starred project if it's been looked at so much? I think my confusion is we have a group of people as a neighborhood that came to us during CIP, one with sandbags in front of their garage door, one that talks about the health hazards because of the standing water. What has triggered this to become more noticeable by the neighborhood, but yet for us, it's been something that's been kind of dormant, if you will?
But I think what has happened is there was
Everybody get the alert.
There's a flash flood warning in effect until 7:45.
God's timing is exquisite.
You know, right or wrong, in 2008 and 2009 timeframe, there was an area, a natural depression area over there that didn't have these residential structures in. They got approved to come through with development, and they developed in
Evans Street.
Evans Street, and they tried to accommodate it. So as people have bought into this, they've recognized the problem. As these houses have turned over, they've recognized the problem. In addition, with water and sewer really getting serious about Church Street, we've elevated the priority of, hey, now's our chance to fix the stormwater, at least on Church Street, or else once it's done, you're not going to want to pay to remove all the new water and sewer again for another 50, 60, 70 years. So
So the rain gardens, or is that what they were called, that were supposed to be a part of their development, some have it, some don't.
So
Could that be something that's looked at to try to help?
the rain gardens were proposed back then, and there were a little bit of a gap. It was done through a preliminary plat, so a lot of these came through and platted and bypassed, really going through a detailed engineering review and analysis. And you had builders coming in and pulling building permits. And right or wrong, what was decided was they put in rain gardens to handle their own water. What they didn't do is take care of the 25 acres of drainage that flowed through their site or consider that. And they did provide an avenue for it. It's just not adequate, and now is resulting in one or two structures that are getting what I would consider to be nuisance flooding into garages, into crawl spaces, into barns, not into the finished floor of a house, at least not that I know of.
So on the price tag of 17 million, that includes the sewer part and water part upgrades. Does it behoove us to have it be also an opportunity for Atmos and other utilities to upgrade? Or are we the one opening the hole so they just get to play in it while it's open?
Well,
You know what I'm
we don't-
saying? Is there an offset, if you will, for us if we partner with those entities?
Not necessarily. We generally will take care of the roadway, the sidewalks, the right-of-way. Now, they will locate inside the right-of-way somewhere and work with us. The benefit is we're all upgrading our infrastructure at the same time, and we're not coming back to recut that street or disturb those residents a second or third time.
So is there a staff recommendation for the option that they think's best, based on what we're looking at tonight?
Well, if you want to address the issue, I think what we're saying is that first option,
17
the
million.
long-term fix to get the infrastructure sized right is the way to go.
Okay.
That's the way to solve it over the long haul. It's not a quick fix, it's not a cheap fix, but if you really want to address it and address it over the long haul, that's the way to do it.
Well, I think we have to address it. It's not a matter of if, I think it's how and when, in my opinion, so.
And the first phase of that is what's in your recommended CIP.
Vice Mayor?
Go back to the third, to the pump station. Explain to me again where the pump station is. Is it in between Parkview Drive and Evans?
It almost looks like there's two vacant lots or just larger lots back at Evans and East Folk Street. So we would have to go in and purchase that property, a significant amount of that property, and then look to put some type of pumping station there, running a force main down East Folk Street through private property over underneath CSX to the Harpeth River, which if you were looking for a quick, cheap fix, this would be one that would rise to the top because there's not many options. But the Church Street would be the better long-term.
Well,
all
5 million
relative.
versus 17.
Yeah.
5 million versus 17 versus an amount of time that would shorten the length of time to hopefully solve some of the problem. So you would intercept then anything, Parkview Drive, Carter's Court, all up through there. You would intercept that, pump that someplace else, and not let it go down, basically go down Evans Street on that particular project there.
Yes, that
Okay.
would be the plan.
All right?
I have Alderman Martin, and then we need to move on. I've got Alderman Martin.
I think we'll just talk later.
Okay, Alderman Peters.
My recollection is that at some point, whenever we were working with the Columbia Avenue streetscape, I think we mentioned this, we were looking, would that have been option 2 that was talked about then? Because there was a talk whenever we were doing streetscape, wasn't there?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that
I
question?
said, whenever we were doing streetscape on Columbia Avenue, did we not talk about,
Oh, okay. So yes, we did upgrade, as part of Columbia Avenue, we did put in some storm infrastructure across Columbia Avenue. It was very shallow and was not necessarily sized to handle this area. So we would have to go back and make that deeper, and we'd have to go basically all the way back to Sharps Branch. And that's where it gets really difficult working in between houses. I know there's one development over there that's pretty much building out next to this tributary, almost full build out, and we'd have to go in there to try to make channel modifications. It would be extremely difficult project, and we're not sure it's even feasible, to be honest with you.
but was that more like option 2,
That was more like option 2, yes, ma'am.
that we decided not to do any of it, other than Columbia itself, right?
And at the time, we were just doing Columbia Avenue, so we did not address anything. And we were bound on one side of Columbia Avenue by an invert that we were tying to, and on the west side and on the east side, the same. So we were just trying to pass it by Columbia Avenue, not upgrade the entire system to Sharps Branch as part of that project.
Last question.
Okay. You mentioned 2 out of the many homes over there, the 2 that are probably impacted the most. They do not have rain gardens.
They do have, the one does, the other one does not.
One does, one doesn't.
Correct.
Okay. So
But the rain gardens, again, were to handle their own site.
their own site.
Yep.
Okay.
Very limited benefit.
Okay. If your mic's still on, if you'd turn it off. Ready to move on to item 3, which is ordinance to establish 4-hour time limit on all public parking spaces located on West Main Street between 5th and 7th.
So you may recall, a few meetings ago, we did have resident business owners, a couple folks approach us about looking at this area west of the 5 Points intersection. And you may recall also when we did our parking study and modified some of the time limits, especially along Main Street, this area was one that was sort of a toss-up on how to handle that. We did decide to treat it the way we treated the rest of Main Street collectively and did a 2-hour time limit. So Alderman Martin specifically, but also at the time we had the citizens come forward and ask us about this, we have brought back to you the various options we looked at that time. We've written an ordinance for your consideration that gives you an opportunity to take it either back to 4-hour time limits or some blend of those. And there are several options that are shown on the screen that we can walk through quickly for you and get your feedback. We did sense a little bit of urgency to move forward on this. This does take 2 votes to make the modification. So we did put it on for first reading tonight as well, if you're comfortable identifying an option. If not, we can continue to move it along and discuss it in 2 weeks again as well. So, do you want us to walk through options
Yeah, why don't
first?
you
or-
walk through?
Yeah. Paul, do you want to walk through what we've got?
And then I'll recognize you after that, Alderman.
It won't
Martin.
take long.
Option 1, we definitely do not recommend, but we wanted to show it because this is how it was prior to changing it all to the 2-hour parking. So on the north side, there was no time limit, and on the south side, it was the 4-hour time limit. And it was confusing from an enforcement standpoint, and that's one of the reasons why we recommended going to all 2 hours, because it's very consistent, predictable, easy to enforce, easy to sign to our tourists and people coming to shop in the downtown area. The next option is what it is today and what we changed it to, which was 2 hours from Fifth Avenue all the way over to 7th Avenue. And then from that point, we just developed a few options just to throw out there for your consideration. Option 3 just shows no time restriction just west of 6th Avenue with a 2-hour remaining east of 6th Avenue, which is more towards that commercial area. The next option was making it all 4-hour parking, which we don't necessarily recommend going back to the 4-hour parking. We like the consistency of the 2 hour as much as possible from a staff standpoint. And then the next item was kind of a hybrid of really just pushing that 2-hour parking right up in front of the commercial area. The 6th option was really just not regulating it all and allowing unlimited time for parking there. And then the seventh option was looking at having the 2-hour parking again, generally east of 6th Avenue, and the 4-hour parking west of the 6th Avenue. And so we're looking for your feedback on how you want to proceed with this. I will say from a staff standpoint, we did not engage the Downtown Neighborhood Association or businesses with this. I know it's something that they brought to y'all, so we're looking for your feedback on how to
Alderman
proceed.
Martin.
All right, I would like for us to consider option 5. We have a property owner here tonight who has talked with me at length about this, and that would leave the 2-hour parking in the commercial block, with the exception of across the street at the Archives on down to 7th Avenue, and that would be unlimited parking on that side of the street and on the, I guess that's the north side, across from the angular parking, just from 6th to 7th. So I would urge us to consider option 5 tonight.
What
Go ahead,
about
Alderman
6th
Peterson.
Avenues itself? Is it non-regulated?
Right.
Correct.
Thank you.
So can I ask a question about that? I'm confused as to why you would go, we used to have 4-hour parking in those, and you want to go unlimited on
Across
West
the
Main.
street because of
I'm trying to understand why we would go all the way to an unlimited parking when we used to have 4, and perception was that worked better.
I'm talking about for office, office zone. What bothers you about that?
Well, my concern is you've got a block that is more retail in nature between 5th and 6th. And that's where you want to turn parking spaces over because shoppers want to go in and out.
Right.
And so I think that's the thinking. We maybe extended that too far to cover both blocks, but would you, my general thought
I
would
would-
be you'd want to keep treat the more retail block like retail, which
I
is a
do.
2-hour, and the office more like it was before, which was a 4-hour.
I want the office to be unlimited, and if that is concerning everybody to have that unlimited between 6th Avenue and 5th Avenue, then I won't argue that. But I would like it to be unlimited from 6th Avenue to 7th Avenue on both sides of the street.
Yeah, pretty
Alderman,
much.
Martin.
Yeah,
Yeah, 3 would be.
3 would be it.
Okay,
Signed appropriately,
all right,
we could make that
3.
enforceable.
Are you done, Alderman Martin?
Yes,
I'm
I
sorry.
am.
I've got Alderman Berger and then Alderman Blanton.
Well, let's take a look at the uses here, okay? So, at the corner of Fifth Avenue, on the north corner, you have Starbucks on one side, you have Sweet Cece's on the other. You've got commercial, and you've got commercial all along that area. On the other side, you have the bank, correct? Post office, and down further, you have the archives. But by the bank, right there, let's talk about the uses, because that should dictate the hours. So the commercial we want to turn over. So 2 hours seems to be fair for commercial turnover here on this map where the yellow is on both sides. So is it appropriate for the bank side, the bottom side of that, to be yellow, 2 hours? Because the turnover in the bank, the post office, in that building, I wouldn't see why they would want unlimited or even need 4 hours. I think 2 hours is even, that's fine. So then you get past 6th Avenue, and as Alderman Martin said, that's where you get the commercial. Office. And what is the need in those offices? We've talked to those people in those offices you have a law offices there, I don't know what else you have, and you have the archives. What is the appropriate turnover for their clients and customers and clients for the office? Do we know that? I would assume that if someone's going to the attorney's office, they're probably not going to be there, hopefully, more than 4 hours, who knows? But I think 2 hours might be too short, so I would think that we'd want to at least put option 7 back on the table and give the yellow 2-hour parking on both sides, and then take and give the office 4 hours. Unless there is some need for unlimited restriction for the office there. Do we know that?
There is.
Okay, can you explain that?
Mayor, may I ask the property owner to come because
Yeah.
she's the
course you
one
may.
who's, thank you.
Good. Oh, hello. Yeah.
So you spoke to us
Yeah.
earlier.
You'll
That's
give
right.
your
That's right.
name and address, please.
Hmm.
My name is
Go ahead and hit the button.
Push
Go
that
hit the
button.
green button.
Rob Ann Lee again. I live at 426 Cotton Lane, and my husband and I own the building at 604 West Main. I think, I understand what you're saying. I think probably people who come into the law office or that back office, obviously their meetings are going to be less than 4 hours. The problem is that the people who work there, for instance, the attorneys will be in a deposition and they go, oh, my 2-hour parking is up. And you know, they have to drive
Good
to
point.
work. They have to be somewhere, as well as the people in the back. I do know that the people in the back are still working, a lot of people from home, which I have encouraged them to do, and I think that's the wave of the future and really smart, and they can work from home. But a lot of them have to be there. Not a lot, but someone has to be there, especially for meetings and such as that.
Okay, so I've got a question on that. Is there a way to designate parking in front of your building there for clients of,
We don't do that.
we don't do that, do we? And we're not, I know they're public spaces. So you'd have to actually purchase those spaces to do that, and I don't think that's probably
You
available.
can't purchase them, I don't think.
You couldn't do that. I mean, yeah, you can. Other cities do that. They
don't.
do, but I'm just saying, if we don't do that, then that's not an option.
Well, we do have 6 parking spots on the property, and then on the
you do, in
back
the back.
side, I know that the group in the back, they stack up, they have 4 spots, and then they stack up 4 more people behind them, and they're kind of in the street sometimes.
All right,
But also, the building next to us, you know,
Is
now
office.
they are
Office.
going to be open office
all
space,
office.
and they also have someone they have apartments.
so you're convincing me then that it looks like it should be yellow, 2 hours parking, and where the green is up on there should be blue, should be unrestricted, is what you're asking.
I'm
Or you're
asking,
asking for more than that, aren't you?
I'm
No,
asking for
no, I'm not.
option
Okay.
3.
Option 3 would be nice. I don't know how many spaces
Yeah.
are there in front of the church
That's reasonable.
on
That's
Main
reasonable.
Street.
Let's see, Alderman McClendon, I'll let you weigh in.
Thanks, Robin.
I think that Mr. Stuckey is correct that, and staff is correct, that symmetry in these things is probably best. Here's the problem. If we do option 3, it won't be 5 days before other people with equally compelling situations come down here and say, me too. And we will be back where we began, or worse. I will try not to say I told you so, but when we had that consultant come in and say, change all this to 2 hours, I sat here and said, turning people over doesn't mean that fewer people try to park. It just means you're sending the same people out into the street to drive around the block until they find the next place to park. That's what's happening here, is that these tenants are being forced to shuffle their car around 3, 4, 5 times a day for no reason other than we told them they had to. It didn't create parking. It didn't solve a problem. And I promise you, if you put no time restrictions on those spots, word will get out real quick. And in all likelihood, the people who go to the courthouse to work first thing in the morning will be there every single day. And so it'll just be people deciding how early they're willing to get up and go to work to get the all-day parking. It won't be just the people who work in the law office at the old fire hall, because there's 50 people that are at work before 8 o'clock at the courthouse every day. So, I mean, this is the can of worms we opened when we went down this path of making 2-hour parking under the theory that somehow that would ameliorate our parking problem. And as we all now see, all it did was bring people to City Hall to tell us that we'd messed it up. So, I mean, and making people move their car when they cannot go home does not create additional parking. It just creates people driving around looking for a place and parking tickets. That's it. So, with all due respect to Ms. Martin, if we do option 3, we will be deluged with people making as compelling a case for their own little block of unrestricted time parking. And before long, the exceptions will swallow the rule. So, personally, I think we should go back to 4-hour everywhere. It wasn't perfect, but as we all know, none of this is perfect. We're only picking between bad options. And the idea that, I mean, I get it. I mean, I guess we kind of decided to exalt the theoretical tourists and shoppers who just want to pop in and spend a lot of money and then leave over the people that are here every single day. But I'm not sure that was really a good plan. So, to me, we don't have enough parking. We're not even close. I buy that much of the consultant's report. But starting to backslide incrementally from a uniform, however many hours you want to make it, is a recipe for disaster. Because it'll just be another landlord or tenant group next week down here with the same problem. There is all due respect to this landlord, there's nothing unique about this situation. Nothing, except that there are those of us willing to sponsor this relief.
Okay, I've got Alderman Martin, then I've got Alderman Barnhill. Excuse me. We'll now go to Alderman Blanton. Thanks for the correction.
All right. The thing that is unique.
I had Alderman Blanton. I'm sorry, Alderman Martin.
I thought you said me.
Well, I did, but she corrected me that I had overlooked her.
She said go ahead, though.
The thing that is unique about this is that there are 2 parking garages in this end of town. There's parking all up and down the streets in all the residential areas for people to park, and they do. They park there all day long. There is nothing in this part of town for these people.
That's 3 blocks from here.
What?
That's 3 blocks.
Are you listening to me?
Yes, ma'am. That's why I said it's 3 blocks. You act like this is the other end of Manhattan.
I'm telling you, you were talking about the courthouse. The courthouse has a parking garage right next door to it.
Which is full chronic.
Well, so anyway, they park on the residential streets, up and down all day long, and there is nothing here. 7th Avenue has parking on one side, and those houses don't have any driveways. So I would say this is unique for these offices down here that do not have any place to park. I still stick with option 3, and I will pursue that.
Alderman Blanton.
There you go.
I'm not sure. I'm
I know.
confused.
No, and it's funny because Dana said a lot of what I was going to say, although I don't use as flowery words as he does. But he nor I supported the time change on the parking. And what I've had both from 3rd Avenue all the way to right down the street from you, what our new rule has done is push all these people out. So therefore, there's a lot of parking that is taken up. It's like shifted it out. So people who own offices or buildings, and I'm not going to call any names, they can't even have their customers or their employees park anywhere remotely by their building because of what we've done with all the new time changes. I do understand what Dana's saying, because what will happen is if Christina doesn't get to work before somebody parks in front of the building or this new building on the corner, it's all gonna be for naught. So how do you dictate the fact that that's a designated space? But I think we've got to do something to reverse what I feel was a wrong judgment from the get-go. So I could support 3. I do think that if we do the one that is all blue, even 5, it will be the new parking lot. If it's unrestricted, it's going to become the new place to park. So it's a slippery wicket.
All right, who was next?
I'll do it. Again, I think, for whatever it's worth, I think Dana's touched it very closely. As soon as we do the change on this, and I don't want it to be 5 days, but 5 weeks or whatever, we'll be, now, I've said this, we'll have somebody else in doing the same thing. I think you need to be consistent on this. We went with a 2-hour parking, and let me say this. This is not the only area. 6th Avenue, 7th Avenue is blocked. It's one way. Fair Street is blocked. Behind this right here, it's blocked now. It's one way. It's parked on both sides. You've got an issue there that's not just this parking right here that's gonna resolve that. But you've got a business behind here, that are all, I go up and down through there once in a while. Not very often. Because you better look at all the way down through there, because you ain't gonna make it if you don't look at least a block to see there's nobody coming. If we want to do, I think you need to be consistent on the parking. If it's 4 hours, it's 4 hours. But again, I think from a board standpoint, we need to be looking at other areas. We've got an opportunity on 5th Avenue. We've got other opportunities to do some surface parking. Now, if somebody can't walk a block to work, or a half a block, or a block, 2 blocks, or whatever it is, then I'm not overly sympathetic to that. And I don't think that just removing this right here is going to solve your problem. You've got, I'm counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I've got 8, 9, 10. Just on the picture, there's 10 cars parked on 6th Avenue in this picture right here. Am I right? So, changing that to no restriction is not going to help you, because they'll fill up.
Alderman Berger, then I've got Alderman.
Well,
I've forgotten.
Okay.
Sure, go ahead. Then Alderman Bransford.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, you go ahead.
I can totally see. I mean, I'm sitting here and I'm so grateful I'm not on this board. Because everybody has a great point, and I totally understand, and I get it. I get it. I think, I know, Mr. Stuckey, you said that it was always 4 hours, but for some reason, I don't think our parking guy ever went past 6th Street in the past. That was the difference, I believe, because that was full with, I think, pretty much a lot of folks that going in and out of those buildings.
I'm pretty sure it's
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
I-
well,
I-
you
I
know,
can't speak to what was
but I'm just
enforced
saying
when.
that
Okay.
that's probably what happened. So that's kind of probably why my people are all of a sudden going, oh, we have no parking. So I understand exactly what everyone's saying, and I appreciate that, and I get it. Thank
All right,
you.
we
I-
need to
let's
push
wrap it up.
onward. We got a lot of things left
I
on
know
this
this is-
agenda, so please make your
I
comments
know
and let's move on.
This is not subject tonight, but this just tells me we better get on our parking, and we are working on it. The people that, Dana, when you said people are gonna rush in and before the courthouse opens, or when they open and grab those spots, but at 8 o'clock in the morning, our commercial's not open. We have some restaurants, but the commercial's not open, so there should be plenty of parking in the early morning for people from the courthouse. I still don't understand why we don't charge people that park there that use our courthouse. I'll never get that. And the other thing is, this is office down here. But if you look between, I know there's office over Starbucks, and there probably is some office over various areas, right? But where else along Main Street, between the square, now the square is unique, and you all are unique, but between the square and here, some all first floor commercial. I don't see any office on first floor down there. And so, no, where?
Right across the square. My husband's old office.
I didn't, I just said, I said
First
between
floor.
the square and Fifth Avenue, not the square and not this area here. So in between that, you know, to me, I think that's where the major turnover should be. And we need to really take a look at the commercial the office areas a little bit differently. But then you get into all this, and I'm not sure that there's a solution that can make everybody happy.
Okay.
I'm just
anybody-
gonna yield my time
Alderman
back.
Bransford, you
Well,
gonna yield your time?
yeah, I'm gonna yield my time because it's been said that, you know, open, no restriction, just gonna create open season for everybody to come in. And also let us know that we need to be looking at another garage.
Let
We
me
need to
make a
think of
quick
long-term.
comment if I
Like
could,
yesterday.
sorry. A couple things I just want to mention. You mentioned projects that are in the pipeline. There are 2 projects related directly to downtown parking in this proposed CIP. The paving of the Fifth Avenue land that we own just south of French's Boots on Fifth Avenue, Hillsborough Road. And then we've got $8 million earmarked for structured parking. Now, we're not identifying a specific locations. There are various ideas we're exploring, one of which could even go with the City Hall redevelopment, but we're looking at a number of options there. So we are trying to provide some capacity. I think when you look at this, yeah, that you can always make the slippery slope argument, but you really have the delineation for unrestricted parking at 7th now. You'd be moving it up a block. So you already have a delineation now that's just a block away. You'd just be moving that a block east closer to 5 Points. So you might be able to differentiate that from other places in downtown. We have 1,500 public spaces in downtown between the 2 garages and what's available on the street. One of the things that the study told us is that the average stay time was an hour and a half. I know you hear other complaints and other questions. We didn't put that everywhere. We only put that along Main Street where the primary commercial restaurant and retail is located. So that was the logic behind that, is driven by data and exactly how people park in those areas now. I know that's a different use than employees, and we have a growing employee base within downtown. So that need is changing, and that's part of why we're looking at the investments that we're talking about. I will tell you, we have a business requesting 2-hour parking on 3rd Avenue. So there are some people who look at this differently than the perception that you may be hearing, especially from the employment base. So it's a balancing act. We've tried to respond to what we got in terms of data in the study. Glad to look at these options and take your direction in terms of this specific issue.
Don't leave out Bicentennial Park either for employee parking.
That is also, yeah, that also has a
mention that.
component related to Bicentennial that could help us with additional parking as well.
All right, you got 30 seconds.
Well, the problem is that our retail, the divide and the contention here is between our retail and our office/commercial. And they are so intermingled that there's no way we can go block by block and legislate one or the other. I think the only rational thing we can do until we have created additional parking, the only rational thing we can do is split the baby and make everyone halfway unhappy. And I mean, if our parking study said that people were voluntarily rolling over at an hour and a half, I don't know why we bothered to regulate them and compel that result, but we did. And so now, month after month after month, we have another pocket coming in saying, fix me, fix me, fix me. And if I were you, I would do the same thing, because your property is being adversely affected, your tenants are giving you grief, and they're saying we can't stay. I would do exactly what you're doing. Everyone here is making rational decisions. The rational decision for this policy body to make, in my opinion, is to split the difference and give everyone 4 hours and let it all sort itself out. It's not going to be perfect. If there were a perfect solution, we'd have stumbled on it by now.
Okay, we're going to move on to items 4 and 5, which have to do with the rezoning and also the development plan for Wood Duck Court.
Yes.
I'm sorry?
Let it go.
Any questions?
Any questions about it? Everybody happy with Wood Duck Court? It's a good report. Item 6, ordinance to rezone .28 acres from R3 to office residential for the property located at 1330 Columbia Avenue. Mr. Gamble, did you want to speak to anything? Was that enough for comment? Thank you.
Any questions about the OR rezoning? Sure, okay.
Take them through it.
Well, I guess I can let you know that Envision Franklin does identify this area as office residential, which is the main reason why we supported this as an office residential rezoning. The applicant had in the past applied for a bed and breakfast site plan, which was approved. Bed and breakfasts are allowed in office residential though, so we took that into consideration. We wouldn't be negating that approval that he had. And right now, there's no additional site plan proposed for an office or a residence. The only thing approved is for a bed and breakfast.
Alderman Speedy, I saw your hand first.
So I get that, you know, the office residential, if it's facing Columbia, would be an appropriate Envision Franklin use.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm all in favor of business owners coming in and improving properties. I guess
Yeah.
the thing that's unique about this property is it doesn't have any access to Columbia Avenue. I mean, if you go and drive, they literally have their parking off of that residential alley, which right now is just a gravel, unnamed, unmarked, one-way or two-way alley. You know, if you drive it, it's basically a residential alley for about 15 residents. And it is a historical residence, along an old subdivision.
Yeah.
And if you come from Academy towards Columbia, if you try to make a left on Columbia right now, there's a 9-foot fence, a stone pillar, and you literally have to get the nose of your car on the white line to even see to turn left. So I have a hard time envisioning 10 parking spots that would be 10 cars that would be using that alley, and I just can't imagine what type of traffic jam or accidents. I mean, literally, it's 9 feet, and you've got to, like, I don't know if it's the right term, but scoot your car out to the end to see left.
Yeah.
And I just have some severe concerns with that.
Sure. That's a valid point. We haven't analyzed that yet because there hasn't been a site plan for a proposed office. That's, I think, what would come within a site plan submittal. We would analyze those things. But it's a valid concern for the
But I
rezoning.
guess unless it's a tear down, they literally don't have access off of Columbia. They only have access to turn into the side parking.
They have that alley, right? to
It's an
use.
alley, right? Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, they have
Okay, who
access
was
from the
next?
alley.
Alderman Bransford.
Well, I just want to know who owns the alley. Is that city property or is that individual? If there's 15 homes that back up to that alley,
It's identified as city right-of-way.
it's city right away. So, and the bed and breakfast require 10 parking spots?
It did not.
Oh, okay.
No, it required less parking spaces. I believe the number 10 came out at Planning Commission. That's what the applicant would like to build. Again, we haven't seen a site plan, so I can't tell you today what he would be required to do. He would like to build an office. We haven't seen a site, not build an office. Office residential zoning requires a residential form, so I think his goal is to use the house and build an addition on the back. That would be an office use. Again, we haven't seen the full plan yet, so without knowing the full size of the project, we can't assign parking to it and see how it would fit on the site. He'd have to park everything on site, so
Right.
it's a small lot.
Do we have citizens?
Alderman Blanton.
I don't remember the street name, but a couple of blocks south from Gift Street, we had a similar request, and it was passed.
Yes,
Carolyn Avenue.
yes, on the opposite
Right.
side of the road.
But that, to me, made sense because directly across the street, there was already Waters Funeral Home and the vet. And I'm looking at this, trying to see if there's any other office residential that's used as an office and/or a commercial use right around here. And I don't, the orange here is noted for something, but I don't know that that's office residential, but.
It's not a specific development residential, so
Right,
those are
so
just 4 homes.
The reason why I supported the Carolyn was because of what was across the street. And this is very different. It's almost like inviting this into this corridor so that it can be repeated and repeated and repeated.
Yeah.
Because there's such a premium placed on being able, number one, to be in Franklin at all, but number two, to be able to put a business in this corridor. So,
Sure. I do think that this is the northernmost point of the office residential design concept.
right.
And then it continues south. So,
Well, I don't know that I could support it just because I don't want to invite this to be a
Alright.
domino effect for Columbia Avenue to start this type of offering when you can go a couple of blocks the other way and have it. So,
sure.
I actually have 3 speakers, but you want to make a comment first, Alderman Peterson? If you'll make it quick.
Yes, and there is one other difference. You can get to the one on Carolyn and Columbia Avenue off of Carolyn, which is a street, versus what we're talking about, that alley there. I mean, it's really, I guess, I don't know the city's ever done anything on it. It is absolutely not a street. In fact, it's, one way is it. I mean, there's no way that you could have cars going both ways there. And also, as was stated, whenever you try to come out of the alley, it would be very dangerous I'm saying even turning right,
site
much less
distances.
left, because you cannot see there at all.
Okay, I've got 3 speakers. I'll ask them to come up. Walt Gorman, Curtis Sullivan, and Kevin Hyman, and I'll give you 2 minutes each. Well, you drive me crazy when you do that, but bring it to me. You only get one chance. Never do it again.
I'll take 1 minute, I won't take more.
Okay. I'm Walt Gorman. I live at 204 Battle Avenue. Been a resident of Franklin since 1991. I've lived in that residence since 2006. My concern is Battleground Estates is one of the oldest planned developments in the city. The city was very active in trying to get the houses on Everbright converted back into residence and redone, which they've done. We're losing our community there. Battle Avenue is now, a throughway. We have traffic problems and everything else, but also the rules are being applied differently along the avenue. So, a couple examples. If I have a tree taken down in my yard, I have to get the city arborist to come out. He's got to certify it. He's got to say it's going to be removed. I've got to get an authorized contractor to come in and remove it. This property, they've already taken down some trees. They actually took down a neighbor's tree that they felt was going to interfere where the original parking was going to be when it was supposed to be a B&B. They originally proposed 6 parking spots, and they went across the neighbor's fence, took down his tree without his permission. The other thing is, when we look at green space on Battle Avenue, I built an addition on my house in 2011. The city had to come out. I had to make some modifications because I had to keep so much green space, and I did. My neighbor 2 doors down, Steve Perry, he can't build his garage because they're restricting him to the amount of green space he has. The houses behind me on Everbright take up the whole lot. So now in this property, you're going to, in the middle of a residential neighborhood, you're going to stick this building, you're going to take this house, and you're going to build the whole back of that lot into, a commercial building on an alley, which is actually the original driveway into the old Everbright mansion. That's what that alley was. So then you got, just as I said, different rules. So like in my residence, when I built my garage, I couldn't bring water out there because they didn't want me to build an apartment back there. Well, now I got 4 or 5 different ones on Battle Avenue. They're all Airbnbs. So then you look at it, and it's all residential. And Brandy was right on. As soon as that property goes, every other piece of property along Columbia Avenue is going to go. And I'm against it.
Mr. Sullivan.
Yes, thank you. Chris Sullivan. I'm at 108 Battle Avenue, and the alley is in the back of my property. That alley is an historic alley, as we just stated. Concerns I have is that a lot of residents walk their dogs up and down that alley. Students from the school, I think it's Renaissance School, they lunch, they play along that alley. I've seen hammocks strewn. I mean, they're very active. That's almost like a green space alley. But also, what you have to know, there's a main sewage line that runs, that serves our homes up and down that alley. And I don't believe that alley is constructed to support the type of traffic that would support the sewage line. In other words, put that type of weight on it. And we do not need that type of traffic up and down that alley, just for a lot of reasons. Safety, one, having a sewage line that's really not engineered probably to support the type of traffic that this could invite. So definitely, that's a concerned citizen. I do not support it.
Mr. Hyman.
Name's Kevin Hyman. I've lived here in Franklin since I was 10 years old. My wife's been here since she was 6 months old. My family owns, our direct family owns 2 homes. Our extended family owns 4 homes on Battle Avenue. To Mr. Gorman's point, Battleground Estates, I don't know, and I'm sorry, I didn't catch your name, ma'am. Amy. I don't know whether the city recognizes Battleground Estates as a neighborhood. It's the oldest platted neighborhood in Franklin. It was established in 1910. I want to read something from page 43 of the Envision Franklin document because to Walt's point, I'm trying to understand how the standards are applied. As he mentioned, every home surrounding that proposed property is residential. Nothing touching it is not residential. The 4 homes that are on Columbia Avenue, the second this is approved, will be converted to office space, and they will have the comparative and legal right to do so. But I'm going to read something from your Envision Franklin document, page 43, if you don't mind. I have a copy of this for all of you if you'd like. The historic residential design concept includes established single-family neighborhoods in and around downtown Franklin. Many of these are historically significant, including Adams Street, Boyd Mill, Everbright, Franklin Road, Hinchyville, and Lewisburg Avenue local historic districts. Neighborhoods in this design concepts are generally over 50 years old and include properties both inside and outside the historic preservation overlay. Their development patterns are important to the downtown character and should be protected from commercial and office use encroachment, period. I don't know how the standards apply if it doesn't apply to this neighborhood. It was established in 1910. It is the standard for a historic neighborhood. The standard explicitly states 50 years old or older. The home next to me that this backs directly up to, they have 5 children that this parking lot's going to go up against, was built in 1910. And a funny sideline story is that Johnny Cash used to sing songs inside of it. But it's 109 years old. 3 homes that back up to this property are in the historic preservation overlay on Everbright. Matter of fact, on page 43, and I believe Dr. Uzerski is in here, the home he just purchased, the home is on the document on page 43 as the standard for what should be protected. So I don't understand when we're using the Columbia Avenue overlay, but we explicitly state that these neighborhoods should be protected, and the very specific neighborhood is outlined in the document. I just don't understand how we're applying standards and how it could possibly move forward. And on a closing note, I would ask all of you, if you haven't, to drive down the alley. If you haven't seen it, this is irrelevant. It is not made for traffic. It is an unmaintained pathway. Today there were 2 kids in hammocks, 18 inches away from the gravel,
Go ahead and wind
eating
up.
their lunch. Yes, sir. Thank you. So I'm opposed.
Mr. Ezell.
I'll make it short and sweet. They've covered it all. Credentials,
hear
family got here in 1802, so I guess we've been around a year or 2 in this community. But the 2 points I want to pick up on is, one, the structure. The manholes in the sewer in our alleyway are all brick. They're not even concrete. 2, you can't see one end of the alley from the other, and traffic's going to be a mess just trying to pass each other, because they're literally, with the trees that are on both sides, there's no way for two cars to pass safely, and I'm just gonna leave it at that.
Okay, great. Any other comments from the board? If not, we're gonna continue to move along, and we're going to item number 7, which is item Resolution 2019-72, a resolution requesting a referendum for the annexation of several properties located south of Long Lane, east of I-65, and outside of the southeastern part of the Franklin urban growth boundary by the city of Franklin.
All right, well, I'm going to keep this part fairly short so we can have some discussion. But as you know, we discussed back at the June 11th work session that at the end of May, we received 26 annexation requests from property owners in the Pratt Lane, Peytonsville Road area. The properties are located outside of the urban growth boundary to the southeast portion of our city limits. Most of you know that the limits of the UGB in this area were more political boundaries. They didn't follow this drainage basin of the Goose Creek Basin in that area. And back in May of last year, we did a study of all the different potential annexation areas in our urban growth boundary. And to the southeast, we found that there were a couple of drainage basins where we really don't think that there's a short-term capability or even mid-term capability to annex, that it would be, these areas would be more difficult to serve in the southeast, and it would be a much more longer-term annexation capability, if at all. But then when we looked at the southeast area near our city limits, where we don't actually have additional land in our UGB, we did notice that we could serve this area of the Goose Creek Basin relatively easily, and that the proximity to I-65 and the future extension of some roadway network of the city, in the city of Franklin and into some of these areas, could allow for some different land uses to evolve over time if the property owners wanted to come in with an annexation request. So that's where we're at right now. As you know, since these properties are located outside of the UGB, the only way to annex them is through a referendum process. The timeline for that process has been updated since the June work session, and it's in the file on your iPads in Granicus. I'm not going to go through it individually unless you have questions, but I did want to open it up for discussion. If this moves forward, there would be a vote on the referendum to request, a vote on the resolution to request a referendum at the next August 27th meeting, and that would be a public hearing. And then that would be to hold a referendum on October 22nd in conjunction with the Franklin municipal elections.
Go ahead, Alderman Brown.
So, who participates in the referendum? Is this similar to the situation earlier off Carters Creek Pike where the property owners get to vote only?
It's the property owners who, the property owners of the properties to be annexed.
Right, so it's really I would assume a boutique group of people.
It's the property owners and residents.
Oh, and
In some
residents.
cases, those
Sorry.
are the same.
Yes.
In some cases, those are not. But those are the folks that get to vote on it. And in this case,
Because it's outside of our UGB.
That's how the referendum works. If you're doing a referendum for annexation, the resident and the property owner get to vote. And actually, that was just updated.
Of the properties to be annexed.
True.
Of the property, yeah.
So since they're not developed, it could still very well be a boutique group of people,
Potentially.
depending on how many houses are, okay,
And
thank
we
you.
talk about 27 properties that vote would actually be among 26 of them, because one of them is already in.
Yeah, the A on the map
A.
up there is actually already in our UGB.
And is, yeah.
Alderman Martin.
Why would we want to do this? Why would we even consider this since it's outside the UGB? And we're talking about growth, and we're talking about the uncontrolled growth. We don't think it is, because we think we're controlling it with our with our plans, but this is outside the UGB, so I really don't know why we would want to even consider this now.
Well, that's really a question for all of you, I think, than rather for me. But there are some benefits to looking at growing in this direction if the city is going to grow over some of the other areas that have more natural terrain issues, and we would really recommend more for conservation over time, whereas this area is a higher growth potential for the city. However, in an ideal world, the county growth plan would be updated at some point, and we would include this area incorporate it into our urban growth boundary first before going down this process. It has been 20 years since the county growth plan was adopted and the urban growth boundaries were created, and they haven't been updated since that time. But due to the changes in state law, we are now allowed to annex outside of our UGB by referendum if the board so desires, and we do have these annexation requests that have been provided to the city.
Let me chime in on that a little further. First of all, the law has changed to be driven by the desire of property owners. So it is less driven by some of the previous UGB limits, et cetera. But when you look at this, you see pretty significant infrastructure within a mile of these properties. And actually, if you look at it in a broader context and you say one of our desires is to preserve the open space, the agricultural character of parts of the county, some of the best ways to do that is to focus development in areas like this that have the infrastructure to serve it while you protect areas that are not able to support it. So by developing where you have the capacity and the infrastructure to support it, you actually make it more likely to protect areas that don't have the infrastructure. Because if we just, growth's going somewhere. It's like a balloon. You push on it, one place, it pops up someplace else. So if we provide a good place here where infrastructure's capable, you do a better job of protecting it where you don't want it to pop up elsewhere in the community. That's how I would frame it to you.
Alderman Speedy?
And I appreciate those comments, and I agree with them. But the question that was posed to me is if we grab another 474 acres, but they don't trust us, is there a way to almost say, well, maybe we give up 474 acres on the easternmost part of our UGB so that there's absolute concern that does stay rural and conservation?
Well, and I think the reality is when you looked at the discussion we had a year ago last May, that's in some ways what we were saying. This area, the capacity in terms of both roadway and basin capacity is there. There are other areas you look at around us that realistically you're not likely to see significant development because of what's already maybe there in terms of neighborhoods that are on septic that are not going to come on, and that you're going to have this sort of disjointed development pattern if you tried to develop it, or just doesn't, the topography or other elements, there's just not enough development to justify extending other infrastructure, be it roadway or sanitary sewer. So I think that's the reality in other areas. And when you look at what we did around that map, and we'd be glad to kind of revisit that with you, you see areas that just probably don't make sense from a cost-benefit standpoint to develop. This is the flip of that. This, from a cost-benefit standpoint, makes a lot of sense because of what we just talked about.
Alderman Bransford.
Let me just sort of remind us that, our survey, our citizen survey, one of the concerning questions they posed was our growth. And that from the last survey to this survey, there was a increase in concern. So I think that's something that we really hadn't talked about as a board together, but I think it's important to listen to some of those open-ended questions regarding growth, and I think growth and housing were the two significant areas that showed a uptick as far as is concerning to our citizens. And I think that's something that we need to be taken very seriously on how we do that. And if Mr. Stuckey is saying that this is more of a controlled way of doing this, that's one thing. But we have so many things already in the pipeline that has not even, that we've approved that has not been built out yet. So we still have a lot of, still yet to see a lot more traffic and housing and those concerns. That will add to what we're looking at for the future. So this could be potentially, 10 years out or 20 years out? I mean,
This is a long-term play.
yeah.
And this is a long-term, you have the opportunity now where you have a significant portion of properties asking you to come into the city.
And I
And that's
think-
the only way for them to come into the city.
And I think that's what we have to
And then
either
you can manage the growth.
communicate to our citizens, because there is a concern out there that we are overdeveloping. And I think we need to be able to have the appropriate answer to that.
I'm
Thank
going to
you.
recognize Alderman Berger, and while she's getting ready to speak, I'm going to ask Donna Sarah to come on up and sit down, and I'm going to give her 2 minutes after Alderman Berger.
Okay. Real quickly, we've always said we need to build where infrastructure currently is or can easily be added. So, Emily, when we look at this, Amy, when we look at this through the planning department, I think that you're very smart to say this is where infrastructure already exists and can be easily added. Because, number one, we're right there at I-65. We're not, down the road 2 and 3 and 4 miles. We're right there. And the other thing is, we have the infrastructure, and infrastructure can easily be added to this area than it can be like out on 96, where the terrain is very difficult, the sewer's capability is not there, the basin can't handle it. So the other thing that was mentioned, so the capacity to support it, and as you said, Eric, over the next 20 years, we're looking at a long-term thing. This is not about, hey, we're going to do this today, and tomorrow there's bulldozers in the ground. That's not happening, because it is a long-term project and a long-term look. So I don't know about giving up areas, because actually, the way the laws are written now, I don't know if we have the ability to give up areas, because we really don't even have a UGB, if you really want to be honest about it, because it's actually null and void anymore. So I don't know what we're talking about when we say give up or do, but I think people are saying have responsible growth. Well, isn't this responsible growth? We're looking at this area. This is where growth should be because of everything we just mentioned. I won't reiterate those points again. But that, to me, is responsible growth. We're sitting here looking at where it should be, where infrastructure is and can easily be added. Then we look at the impact fees, the additional roads that can be added there, and near I-65. So this area really does need to be studied and looked at very closely.
Okay. Ms.
Thank you.
Sarah? Good job.
I'm trying. My name is Donna Sava, and I live outside of the city of Franklin, full disclosure. I live close by your urban growth boundary over here. I can speak to your responsible growth because we're living in a nightmare right now. So I drive my kids to school every day because my husband will not allow them to get their driver's licenses. I have twin boys. They're 16. They go to Page High School. The road is a nightmare and a mess. The schools have been overcrowded because of all of the impact that the development on Carruthers, which was annexed into the city. And then we've got, I don't even know, thousands and thousands of homes and more planned. When people look at you and ask you for responsible growth, they would like to see roads and schools built before you decide that you're going to go and annex land. We drive on a 2-lane country road. Long Lane, where this is proposed to go, is a 2-lane road behind the Ag Center. I can't even get across 65 at 5 o'clock at night. If I want to go to the grocery store and I leave out of Arno Road, it takes me 45 minutes to get to the Publix on Riverside Drive. Your parking situation that you're looking at downtown here that's off of Main Street and the problems that you're having with that, take that and magnify that for the people that are across the roads, that are across the county from you, and look at that before you annex any more land. Before you tell them, the minute people hear annexing land, they're thinking, Maybe it is going to turn around in 5 minutes and be another thing. But I will go to your statement that there are so many developments that haven't even started yet. The school district cannot keep up building schools for the kids that are there. My boys will be living through construction for the next 2 years and will never get a chance to sit in a new classroom or a new building. They have A's and B's. They're great students. My other one is a straight A student. They work their butts off, and they hear blasting across the street so that we can expand the middle school to fit 1,600 kids. They were having classes in the hallways. Your parking situation downtown is your systemic little microcosm here of the whole problem of growth in the county. Carruthers and Liberty Pike, they have just taken down every single solitary tree that was there. When people come to you and say that growth is unsustainable at the rate we're going, and that man came and talked about traffic coming down 65 corridor, and now you want to add, and this is not you. I mean, I'm not, it's not you.
Yeah.
But I'm saying, but in general, I mean, but it's a thing. It's an honest to God thing. I mean, get on the roads, drive the roads. Please drive the whole county. Drive everywhere, not just to and from work. You're asking, and when this giant behemoth comes in behind Landmark Booksellers and all those businesses come in, you think the underground parking's going to be enough for people? Do you think the parking on the street's going to be enough for people? Or do you think the poor people that are in every single residential street outside of it are not going to have people coming and walking 2 or 3 or 4 blocks to go into those businesses?
Because we've got to finish.
I'm winding up, but I don't want this. I don't want you to extend the urban growth boundary, and I don't want any more growth. Please don't annex any more land, and please don't allow any more building. Please, I'm begging you. No more, we got enough. Thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Mr. Mayor, can I add just one thing for clarification? The resolution that we're discussing right now and that would move forward for a vote on August 27th, I believe is the next meeting.
Yes.
That is if it moves forward and you do request to hold the referendum and the referendum passes, the annexation would be effective 30 days after the certification of the election. So the vote in 2 weeks is very important in terms of whether you would like to see the annexation or not, because it will not come back before you after that point except for a plan of service and a zoning.
In your zoning it talk about how it would come in.
So it would come, right now, we have worked with the property owners, and it would come forward with a request for an estate residential zoning at this time, because since this is outside of the urban growth boundary, we have done no planning in Envision Franklin for this area. It is outside of our planning territory, so when we talk about if UGBs are still existent and they matter, it is from a planning standpoint because that's the jurisdiction in which we have these planning documents. So we would actually need to update Envision Franklin before any future rezoning requests should be considered.
As a planner, I've got a huge question for you.
Sure.
If you look at this area, this is the last corridor that we have, that we will have probably. Why would we put residential there? That is where commercial office goes, right by I-65. And I would think that if we don't want to encroach on the rural areas after that, that housing in the county, the city or the county would go there, or open land, farms would be there. And to me, this would be protected this would not be residential.
Sure.
It could be some mixed use, absolutely.
The issue
but
is the
not-
timing, is that we haven't done any studies about where and which properties and how the transitions are made into residential areas on the outskirts of the county. Our policy in the zoning ordinance states that without a development plan having been submitted, and going through the PUD process at the same time as annexation, that agriculture and estate residential are the only appropriate districts to zone until a development plan is submitted.
Well, how about agricultural then?
We have
Rather than residential?
We
You're
have
trying to pick what's
discussed that.
closest to what it is.
And I
That
wouldn't-
is the reason, is that
I
it
would do
would be
agri-
considered a substantial downzoning from what is already entitled in the county. And so going to estate residential is
Yes.
keeping it similar to what is permitted in the county.
So we don't have open land there? Right now?
We do have open land, but
We don't have
the,
farms out there?
the zoning in the county is
Yeah.
MGA one,
MGA
which
1?
allows for 1 unit per acre. Am I correct about that?
So the county zoning currently is MGA 1.
That's, let us get back to you on the
I'm
specifics.
just curious because I
but
want to make sure we
were
make that
just
point.
We're trying to,
This is
we're
very
trying to
important
match it
today.
as
Yeah.
close as we
Yeah.
can,
So
and that's the closest
Yeah, I think this is
match.
very important to know. MG1, if the county has that zoned MG1, which means residential, then if we would zone it agriculture, we would be downzoning that.
Yes, and let us get back to you with the specifics
Okay.
because we were just writing the staff recommendations on
'Cause
an
I would have a-
upcoming ordinance to
I would have a
zone
problem
today.
zoning
so.
it. I would have a problem zoning it
Okay, I've got
residential.
Alderman
Thank
McClendon. I apologize for not grabbing you before Alderman Berger, and then I've got the vice mayor. I've got a number of items yet to go. We're gonna not discuss the irrigation metering structure tonight, so we're gonna be close to finishing on time. So,
I have a comment and then a question for staff. The comment is just directed to the general public. Speaking for myself, I don't need to know whether or not a particular person lives inside or outside of the city. We all live in the same community. I give no greater or less weight to the comments of people who live in the city or in the county, or whether you lived here 190 years or moved here yesterday. Everyone's a person, everyone's a participant. So that's my comment. So, but my question is, if we decline to do the referendum, what do we foresee happening on this acreage?
I'm not sure I can answer that. The property owners, some of them may be in the audience tonight. I'm not sure that, other than on a few other properties,
Well,
there is intent to do
Embedded in my,
developments.
okay, embedded in my question is this. Declining to do the referendum does not mean there will be no development.
It just
It
won't
just
be
means
under the
that a
city.
different government would regulate that development, which might or might not lead to a more favorable outcome than if we regulate it.
More than that's very accurate.
I mean, it's probably fair to say that if you just like 1 acre unit, 1 acre per lot, the county is likely to regulate it that direction.
More than likely, if this were to come into the city, when we update Envision Franklin, we would look at the appropriate land uses, and it's probably going to be a mixture of uses more than just estate residential that
Right.
comes out of the recommendations.
But
if it stayed in the county, it would
I
likely
won't-
remain
I won't
residential.
take the time to do a lengthy analysis of this, but 1 acre per unit development does not necessarily mean a better outcome for everyone, because if let's just say that 5,000 families want to move here, the choices that policymakers make could result in 5,000 1-acre lots across 5,000 acres, or 5,000 families living on a more compact area than that. Now, that's not me forecasting or telling you what I think we ought to do here, but sometimes I think people confuse the idea that if the city annexes it, the result is worse, or that density is necessarily the problem. I understand how this works, but I just don't want to, so we don't, saying no to the referendum doesn't mean these people won't be at the county planning commission asking for subdivision or whatever.
Vice Mayor, I've got you next.
I think Dana covered part of mine. The other question is, if we miss the October 22nd date, what happens? When's the next?
Well,
You can pick
you
whatever
can
date you
pick
want.
whatever date you prefer for the referendum.
We just put it on the 22nd because that's just the city.
Yeah, it makes it less expensive because we've already got yeah.
Okay, I'll recognize you, Alderman Berger.
One quick thing.
Quick comment.
I just want to make a
Quick
comment.
means quick.
that, Commissioner Hester and Commissioner Lawrence and I, we've talked about this, but, you know, there was 5 developments that happened between Clovercroft Elementary School and Nolensville Road. 5. And we didn't have any control over that because it was county. And county commissioners don't see these. They don't approve the development. They never get a say in development, from what I've been told. It's all the planning department, the planning commission, I'm sorry, the county planning commission. Like us, we usually get this, and we get to approve the annexation, we get to approve the zoning, we get to approve the development plan. But they're not seeing this. They're not, as they're elected officials representing the people in the county, they're not having a say on that, and that's just the way it is. So I just want to make that clear, because some people misunderstand that. And I would also say that, you know, these developments, I'm just a little bit leery of how we would zone that if that came in.
Master planning, a large unit versus all of it being 1 acre lots is interesting. Item 8, request for water and sewer availability. 8, okay. Request for sewer availability denial, Berry's Chapel
Yep,
Road.
good.
Procurement award to Hayes Pipe Company for $146,463.25. Any
good.
question about that one?
Michelle, go. Good.
job,
Resolution
Michelle.
2019-76, adopting the Williamson County Hazard Mitigation Plan.
Last updated in, last updated in
Yeah, what is
2013.
that?
This is the new version of it. It does help
Yeah, I saw
us, the county, and our city and other cities when we pursue grants, and to have an updated mitigation plan.
Item 12 is ordinance 2019-25, an ordinance to amend the title Water and Sewer, assessing a monthly availability charge where sewer access is available even if the customer is not connected to the sewer.
So we have an inconsistency in our code that doesn't reflect what our practice has been for several years, which is when we have somebody who's not hooked onto sewer, but sewer is available to them, what our practice has been to have them pay the minimum availability charge. And so that's how we've generally done it. We have a component in the code that requires us to potentially charge them as if they were on the sewer system. So we want to just clarify that this would only be a minimum availability charge would be and that's how what our practice has been for many years. So that's a quick summary.
That's a great quick summary. It's a cleanup item to make sure that we are consistent, not charging them based on their water consumption, but charging them based on an availability charge, which covers the maintenance and upkeep of the line until they tie in. This
This is in Meadow Green subdivision.
Well, this would affect Meadow Green, but it
Yeah.
affects everybody
Yeah.
that is not hooked on.
It's $17 a month for the first 1,000, probably. And then it's $7 on top of that.
Yes.
each
Yes.
1,000.
Yes.
Do you have a question,
I
Alderman
have,
Martin?
I have a question about 8. We skipped right over that. That was a request for water and sewer availability on Hillsborough Road.
Need to go back to that.
What's that about?
We're not on
Does
that.
anybody know? I think Michelle's
It's a
gone.
single-family unit home.
Well, wait a minute, we're on the other one right now.
We finished
Are we
that.
done?
She's
Are we
back.
finished? Okay.
Okay, we're going to skip back to 8. I apologize. I
Are
didn't
we
realize
done?
you
No,
had a
I'm
question.
sorry, one was for denial, and this was for availability.
Which one do you want to, are you
8.
asking about?
Number 8.
Availability.
Give us,
Eight allows them to tie in, but go ahead.
Yeah, so 8 is, they're an existing water and sewer customer, and they're just not subdividing, but building an additional residence on their property. So this is just asking for 1 SFUE.
They're adding one unit.
And we can do that without,
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
okay, that's.
Just
that's
one
fine.
residential
This is an
service.
easy one.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other? Sorry to bounce around. Is everybody through with 12?
We're not doing 13.
We'll see you in 15 minutes.
Mr. Mayor, since we have people already here, it might be worth telling our newcomers to fill out a speaker card, because I
Sure.
see a lot of new faces.
For those of you that plan on speaking at the Board of Mayor and Alderman meeting, if you would fill out a comment card, make sure you indicate the item that you want to speak on, and we'll go from there.